Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Alison McConnell and Tam McManus are here with me on the show. Thank you for joining us. If you get a bit of time, can you hit the subscribe button and show your support for us? We'd be absolutely, indebted to you for that, because there's so many people have managed to do it before and they're consuming all our unique video content. And if you want to get it all at your fingertips, you can download the PLZ Soccer app as well. There's so much to talk about. We'll be talking about Jimmy, we'll be talking about Phil, Brendan, as well as Derek. That's the managers. We might even throw in David Gray under pressure at Hibernian. We'll get your thoughts as well, read out some of your messages on our live feed. And don't forget, if you miss it at live periods at 4 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, you can also watch it at your leisure on our YouTube channel. So with that in mind, a fantastic day yesterday in Union Street, Ruffy, as you can see from the pictures. The open top bus was there. The Aberdeen fans had turned out in their thousands as Aberdeen celebrated the draw against Celtic. They're all there. They're just coming down the street. It's absolutely magnificent, isn't it? I mean, you've got to celebrate a draw, haven't you?
Yeah, well, what a day for them. You know, the large support that come into the game, you could see how much they enjoyed the whole day, and I think that's what we've all been waiting for, a team to challenge Rangers and Celtic. It remains to be seen whether they can do it long term, but as it is just now, they are a breath of fresh air to our league.
Yeah, I think we've really got to, and we'll get into the meat and bones of Aberdeen's performance shortly. I was being just facetious and obviously trying to noise a few people up who've been absolutely giving Kobe pelters up in Granite City for our open top bus jibe, but it's all a bit of fun in football. That's what we love about it. I'll talk about Aberdeen's heroics in a moment, but off the back of Celtic and Aberdeen drawing, of course, yesterday all eyes were on Rugby Park. Ali, you were there. Killie 1, Rangers 0. In the end, there was I don't know, when I was watching the game unfold, I got that sense of impending doom coming Rangers' way. Did you get that?
Yeah, I just thought it was incredibly flat. I didn't think Rangers offered much in the game at all. There was a brief moment at the start of the second period where you thought they were maybe going to just up the ante a bit. It didn't really materialise, and the longer the game went on, Kilmarnock always carried a bit of menace. And yeah, I think, you know, I didn't think the win flattered them at all. But I thought Rangers have just offered so little. There was just no real urgency about the performance, no real threat, no real sense of fluency, cohesion, no established pattern or identity to how the team wants to play. And I think that's Philippe Clement in the job now a year, and I think probably more questions than answers.
Well, of the players on the pitch, once the game was over, some of them like to go towards their fans to thank them for their support. I'm not too sure all of them were heading over that way, because the Rangers fans who had stayed till the end gave them what for. But there was a banner prior to the match as well, which perhaps is an indication, Ruffy, of where the club lies at the moment. Rangers fans not happy. No chairman, no chief executive, no director of football operations, no clue, one scapegoat. Mismanagement of Rangers must stop, and stop now. The fans are clearly unhappy with what's happening at boardroom level, although I must admit, John Gilligan's come in there with George Leatham just to try and sort things out, but the previous incumbents have been getting it in the neck.
Yeah, they certainly have, and for me, it's not helping the team, but it just shows you wouldn't mind that kind of protest if it was after the game, but it's before the game, and for the players to walk out and see that kind of thing, it wouldn't inspire you at all,
It doesn't give you maximum impact if you do it after the game.
Well, I know, but you're putting your players in the part under pressure, because you're obviously letting your feelings hurt, and you're quite right to let your feelings be heard, but strongly right at the beginning of the game. If you're running out the dugout and you're running towards your supporters and you see the banners, and just puts a wee bit more added pressure on you.
Yeah, I think off the park though, Tam, there are lots of problems which have angered the Rangers fans, and they just want to try and get it all sorted out. I think John Gilligan's got a huge job trying to sort it out, and it's not helped by the fact that whatever you're doing in the background, if you are losing games, the pressure intensifies.
Yeah, it does. They just look rudderless, Peter, from top to bottom, Rangers at the minute. I think, you look at Philippe Clement. Who's he answering to? Who does he go into the day and speak to? John Gilligan or somebody above? Who's his boss? It's an absolute mess at the minute, off the park, at the top of the club, and on the pitch. I think yesterday they were terrible. I thought that Kilmarnock, listen, it was the first half was possibly one of the worst games of football I've ever seen. It was dreadful. I mean, it was a really, really poor game of football, but Rangers just had to go down there and just see it out and nick a 1-0 and get up the road. They didn't really create much at all, and Kilmarnock were always threatening on the break. And I think the subs that Rangers brought on made no impact at all. I thought Dessers was poor as well, middle of the park. They look lightweight. I don't think they've got a leader in there. I don't think they've got any dig whatsoever. I thought Kilmarnock in the middle of the park, kind of bullied them. And if you're a Rangers fan watching that, obviously Celtic drawing, you think you're back in it. I think they've got a real race for second place now. I really do. I look at that Rangers team and it's possibly one of the worst Rangers teams I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I know the Rangers fans were not happy at the tail end of it. As far as the Rangers manager, Philippe Clement, is concerned, it was an opportunity squandered, but he says they have to remain focused.
Disappointing to get a goal against like that. So with one blind ball behind the defence in no man's land, and where our defensive line was not good at that moment, but yeah, those are things to work on with new players coming in. No, there's no concern because we need to be focused on ourselves. If you look at the gap all the time, you forget to do what you have to do. It's about us. We need to win games.
Well, I take on board what he's saying, but I have to say, Ruffy, if you don't win games, you don't survive in this job. I'm looking at Rangers right now, the way they play, and I take on board what Ali was saying, because sometimes you can work out the DNA of a side and the style and the way they play and who's the leader and how they go about their business. I can't see anything like that in that Rangers side. I certainly don't see leadership. I don't see creativity. There's certainly no threat up front, and they can be got at the back. And I'm looking at Philippe Clement and the job he's done after a year. Yes, they got the League Cup, but I'm thinking to myself, he's on a tightrope all the way to January the 2nd, and I think, I just wonder if he's going to survive.
Yeah, well, he's put himself under pressure, right away by saying, wait until January, judge me then. But as we all know, there's lots and lots of games before that, and that one yesterday was one of them that he would have expected to win and win all the way to January. But on that for him, it's just not going to happen. I just think the players, we talk about it all, I'm not saying it works all the time, that you need players at a club who know what the club's all about and the tradition and all that, and that works sometimes. I just think just now with the players that he's brought in, as you said there's no continuity. They all seem to be playing for themselves. The individuals are not a collective. They're not like playing, as they're all in it together. They're in it sort of individually and looking for individual sparks here and there, and it's just not happening.
John on our feed says Clement has not improved one player and his team have no style of play. If Rangers could afford to sack him, he would surely be considering, they would surely be considering letting him go. They can't afford to bring in anyone else. Well, I don't believe that, Tam. I've spoken to a number of agents who basically have said, and I think people were slightly caught by surprise by his extension to his deal. But what agents are telling me now is, with a lot of managers, there's a clause in the contract which says, look, we're giving you an extension, you may well get an increase in money, but that's to protect us if somebody comes and steals you as the manager. So we get compensation. The flip side of that is if we sack you, you're only going to get 6 months' money. You're not getting 4 years. And there's a lot more of that going on because clubs quite simply can't afford to sack people and pay 4 years of their managers' fees. That could cripple them.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a full-year compensation, Peter. I think most managers are maybe 6 months or a year in terms of getting paid off. So I don't think that's an issue if Rangers continue to lose games and it becomes a decision that they can't afford not to make. And they've got a huge game coming up a week on Wednesday, Aberdeen away. There's 6 points, I think, between them just now. If Aberdeen go 9 points ahead of Rangers, coming up to November, Forget Celtic. I mean Aberdeen. I don't think they can afford not to sack him. So I think he's under real pressure, Peter. I agree. I don't think he's improved anyone. I look at the players coming in. I look at the Aberdeen manager coming in. I look at him coming in. The players he's bought, excellent. I look at the players that are already there. Graham Shinnie's, guys like that. He looks as if he's improved them. So he's got a boost. He's coached them, and they've got a way of playing. Rangers, I still don't know what they play. Do they play counter attack or the high press? It's like a higgledy-piggledy. You don't know what they're going to be doing next. So he's got a big couple of weeks coming up. Not only that game, but he's got the semi-final against Motherwell as well. So I think he's got an enormous 2 or 3 weeks coming up, Philippe Clement.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the side is concerned and who's coming on to make a difference, the bench doesn't look great to change things, and this is what the key element of what we're talking about with, for example, Celtic up at Ross County. Make 4 changes, end up winning the game. That's what they're capable of doing. And I throw Celtic into the mix, Alison, quite simply because that should be their rivals. But I'm looking at them right now and I'm saying, if Aberdeen can't take Rangers in a battle for second because they are poor, they don't have that ultimate leader, and they don't even have somebody you think is an enforcer in the middle of the park. I don't see anything that's unbelievably creative that you think to yourself, whoa, here's a player that's scary, we've got to watch him.
Yeah, I think also too, like, you start to lose a bit of your superiority in going into games. Like, I think yesterday you could sense that Kilmarnock just had a sniff of vulnerability about Rangers that they could manipulate and exploit. And I wonder just whether or not that will be the same next week up at Pittodrie. Now, in between times, of course, Rangers have the European game against Steaua Bucharest on Thursday night. Then they have St Mirren at home on Sunday. Arguably, these are games that they should win. It might just calm things down a little bit. But I think that team is under tremendous pressure going up to Pittodrie against an Aberdeen team who really aren't. You know, they're in a no-lose situation. I think they've started the campaign extraordinarily well. They'll take huge belief from the draw that they got on Saturday against Celtic, the manner in which they got that draw. And as you know through previous encounters, it's always a very difficult environment for Rangers to go to. And I think up until this weekend, people have looked at it and thought that Aberdeen coming in second and going in ahead of Rangers, you've thought, well, they've not really played anyone, they've not really been tested. This is the month where we see what they've actually got. All of a sudden this weekend you're looking at it and thinking they may just be plausible contenders for that second spot.
If he loses at Pittodrie, I can't see him survive, Ruffy.
I would think the semi-final would be a bigger game to lose than the Aberdeen one.
What?
I think if Rangers don't get to the final, that would be the one.
No,
that
for
the
me
fans
it's the
would
league.
come with.
I just think the League Cup, the Premier Sports Cup.
Ruffy, here's the equation. There's a £60 million roll of the dice. And they've got to finish second. And remember, if I'm not mistaken, because of our coefficient and we're dropping down the ladder, suddenly there's more qualifiers. They've got to be in second to be at least involved in qualifiers for the Champions League. See, if I was that board, Ruffy, I'd be looking and thinking, our manager has lost at Pittodrie. We're 9 points behind Aberdeen, and we can outspend them 2-3 to 1 at the moment.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is if you lose to Aberdeen, you go 9 points ahead. You've still got the whole season to recoup that. You've still got the whole season to claw that back. We don't know what's going to happen to Aberdeen in the long run. If Motherwell beat them in a semi-final and they don't get to a final, which they'll always be expecting to at this moment in time, I think that'll be a bigger outcry than the Aberdeen one.
No, I think the league is far.
I just think the rivalry.
I know it's far important, but going 9 points behind can be clawed back in the in the break.
I think Rangers fans, I think it might be the straw that would break the camel's back.
Particularly Aberdeen.
Yeah, because there's
There's
no
such a
love lost
rivalry,
between
yep.
them, is there? I mean,
I think it's just as big for Rangers and it is playing Celtic. Aberdeen obviously always raise their game. There's a real bitterness between the two clubs. So I think if
let's go down the scenario then. They beat Aberdeen, right?
yeah.
And they lose to Motherwell. You don't think there'll be an outcry then?
They just want to be in the title race,
They
Ruffy.
want to be in finals. They want to win cups. That's a cup they can't win if Motherwell beat them.
Yeah.
There's an argument to say that Premier Sports Cup is important if it's in a collective with other trophies at the end of the season. As a standalone trophy, as it was last season for Rangers, I don't think it counts in terms of great kudos or great it doesn't offset not winning the league.
Well, Raphael, put it this way, would Rangers rather win the League Cup and finish third, or not win the League Cup and finish second?
Yeah, but as I'm saying, the season lasts for. We've only played
I know.
how many games we played. I mean,
I'm
I'm saying Rangers could catch Aberdeen throughout the whole season.
yeah.
So I wouldn't be worried about that.
So that's your logic. But
I
I'll
would
tell
be
you something.
worried if I'm in a semi-final of a cup against a team that they should beat and they don't get there. I think I would be extremely disappointed in not getting the chance to get
Ruffy,
a cup.
name me a Rangers fan with as long-term a view as you on it, though.
Oh, I mean,
Short-term
I know fan-
thinking.
No, I know fans are the way fans are. They want to win all the time, you know. And but I mean, there'll be a large. I'm not saying there won't be a larger amount of supporters who wouldn't be disappointed if Aberdeen, beat Rangers. Of course there will, but would there be enough fallout for him to be sacked?
I thought it was interesting.
He's Aberdeen, Ruffy.
He's got Steaua Bucharest before that. What happens if we don't beat them? Does it mean every game he's?
I think
he's
Europe's
Europe's
a kind of bonus. I think for Rangers, I don't think anybody expects him to get out get qualify out that group anyway.
Yeah.
But what I thought was really interesting yesterday, apart from the end when the Rangers players went over, very, very tentatively approached the support, knowing what was coming, that you saw an anger and an inevitable frustration. But during the game, I actually felt as though it was quite apathetic. It wasn't the same vitriolic, the anger that you see and the frustration that you hear.
Acceptance now.
I thought it was quite subdued in terms of, given the fare that was on offer, how lethargic the performance was. I thought that was very interesting, and I know you saw an element of it at full time when the Rangers players went over towards the fans, but by and large, I thought there was a real subdued element amongst the support, almost an acceptance is probably the wrong word.
Do you know what I think, Ali? I think the Rangers fans are exhausted.
That's exactly, it's almost like, here we go again. Here you go, you're in the same cycle again.
And the only one that's bailing them out consistently is the Rangers fans.
Yeah.
The Rangers fans have continually put their money in their pocket. They've bought the season tickets. They've bought into a plan and another plan and another plan. And just when, and I've spoken to a number of Rangers fans, including, of course, over the course of the last few days, when you have a situation where, as was suggested with Steven Gerrard, you wanted to build from a position of strength when they stopped the 10 in a row, it didn't materialise. And then what happens is, the ultimate for me is, you're duped by the biggest con salesman of all time when you end up hiring a guy who should never have been anywhere near the Rangers manager's job in Michael Beale. I mean, it just beggared belief to me that they would offer him that job, all on a sales pitch of he was the power behind the button, because quite simply, it's just been one constant mistake after another. Recruitment, then the board walks away, then another board member steps down. Obviously, we are aware of the fact that he needs to restore his health. Your health is more important than anything. But you now have a salvage job in the background where the Rangers fans have highlighted no CEO. They're looking and they're saying, the time needs to change. The board needs to get its act together. We need a direction. We need a leader in the boardroom. We need a leader on the park. And we need a manager to consistently grind out results. Even no matter how you do it, just win. And get that papers over the cracks. Just keep them in the race. They're not in the race. And that stat yesterday is damning. Of all the goals away from home this season, Celtic have scored 13, Aberdeen 7, Dundee United 6, Motherwell, St Johnstone and Kilmarnock with 6, Dundee and Hearts with 5, St Mirren with 4, Hibs with 3, Ross County with 1, and Rangers with 1. That's as damning. That's as damning as it gets.
Yeah, that's a lack of creativity that Rangers have got. I think you've seen it over the course of the whole season, really. They struggle to create chances. You've seen yesterday, Dessers First half was really, really poor. Everything was bouncing off him, and he tried to making the wrong decisions, playing the ball. He's unlucky with the one that comes off the bar, but he didn't get. Rangers didn't have a sustained period of pressure where you think the goal's coming. Rangers are on top. It was just a kind of, there was a nothingness in the game. It looked as if it was going to peter out to a 0-0, to be honest. And then obviously Mally Watkins gets a wee break and gets through. But I've never seen a start like that, Peter. Rangers away from home scoring 1 goal. After I don't know how many games they've played away from home, 3 or 4 games. That's madness for a club the size of Rangers to have that kind of goal scoring record.
Now, on the flip side of this, and this is where I think there really is something telling, Derek McInnes, after the game, Mally Watkins has scored the goal to win the game. Derek McInnes, they had a shaky start to the season. Europe really kind of put them under pressure as well, but he looked at that game, and I think he's actually starting to see the real Kilmarnock.
You know, I think in terms of where we are, it was a far more performance that I'm more can expect for ourselves in terms of being robust enough, hardly give up the opportunities, been really strong defensively, lads all doing their jobs well, and that responsibility and trust and carrying a threat.
Yeah, Derek McInnes, on a fraction of the budget, well organised, and they won the game, Alison. This is a man who, I think Rangers, from the story, from the inside track, that the last time, Derek McInnes was all set to become the Rangers manager. He picked the side for the weekend, and then there was a massive U-turn. I think Derek McInnes will be the one type of manager they will be looking to if this all goes pear-shaped, because he's already proved that he can take on Rangers without fear, soak up the pressure, pick their moment, win the game.
I would agree with you in terms of he should be a contender or should be definitely in the equation for the reasons that you've listed. I'm not sure if he would be. One, because he has turned it down before. You go back a couple of years when he was Aberdeen manager. I think that's when you're referring to the time that you're referring to. And he opted to stay at Pittodrie, so he's already turned it down. I don't know if there would be a second offer, and also I don't know if Rangers fans would want to cast the net a bit wider. However, from my perspective, I think he should have been in the running this time last year. I think his credentials speak for themselves. I think he's repeatedly punched above his weight, both at Aberdeen and at Kilmarnock, in terms of just organisation and being able to create a team that are greater than the sum of their parts, which I think for me is where you see coaching, is where you see the benefit. You see players improving under the tutelage of good coaches. That's what you've not seen at Rangers.
The difference between Rangers and Kilmarnock are, as we were saying there doesn't seem to be any structure to the Rangers team. You look at the Kilmarnock team, they've got 3 at the back.
They all know what they're doing.
They've got 3 in the middle, they've got 2 wide boys, and they've got 2 up front. They all know what they're doing. That is an organised setup of this is what we're doing and this is how we're going to win games.
Are we being slightly unkind to Philippe Clement and the fact that he's still in the job, or is there a realisation that he looks as if he's one more result away from, people saying, look, enough is enough? Or should I flip that and say, listen, we've got to cut this guy some slack and say he needs that time that I think we've been talking about with every other manager. Philippe Clement just needs the time to crash on for the next 6 months and see where they're going.
I think at any other club he probably would get that time, but I don't think he will at Rangers, Peter. I think that he's obviously had to cut the budget massively. I think that goes in his favour. I think he's probably been told that when he came in, we need to cut wages. He's got rid of 5, 6, 7 big earners. The club's now on a better financial footing in terms of wages and outgoings, but it doesn't look as if the team's any better than it was last season, Peter. And he's got to get in and improve the players that are there, and the guys that have got to come in have got to do well. And there's not one signing that he's made that I could say, by the way, he's been a great signing for Rangers. There's not one signing he's made that you think he's been a great signing for Rangers.
I think you could make an argument for regression. I think you could make an argument to say that the team looks as though it's gone back the way, which might be no great surprise given the financial circumstances and the fact that they have cut the budget and they did lose players. But I think if you think that the last time Rangers were down at Rugby Park prior to yesterday was the end of last season when they lost a goal, trailing 1-0, come back and won 2-1, and looked at that point to be viable title contenders, to where that fell off a cliff in the latter weeks of the campaign, and it's never really got going now. I would take the point that yesterday could be seen as an aberration other than the Celtic game. However, I think it's just been so disjointed at points. I think even when they have been winning, it's not been particularly convincing. I don't see any particular style or identity within the team.
Okay, so give us your thoughts. Will big Phil Clement see out the season? Do you think he's the man, if you're a Rangers fan, do you think he's the man to take Rangers forward? Does it just need that little bit of luck, that focusing on what they have to do, is what Philippe Clement has mentioned? Is it time just to get behind the manager and see how the new year brings that game at Ibrox against Celtic? Will he get that far? Give us your thoughts on it. Is it bigger getting knocked out of the cup by Motherwell, as Ruffy mentioned? We'd love to hear from you Rangers fans on that. We move on to Celtic 2, Aberdeen 2, because that result ultimately threw up a possibility of Rangers closing the gap. In the end, that point for both sides extended the difference between them. Celtic and Aberdeen, it was a game eagerly anticipated. And I must just start by saying we are going to be very, very positive, I think, and rightly so, about Aberdeen. But Alan McDonald says, I've got a question for Peter. Embarrassing comment last week, re the open-top bus for getting a point at Parkhead. Do you think it's time to lay off the patronising comments? Big games coming up, but confident in the team. Alan, you need to get a life. We need to have a bit of humour in football, Ruffy. And again, I didn't think they were going to get a point. But fair play to them, because they didn't go toe-to-toe, Ruffy. They had very little percentage of possession. They were well organised. They play a 4-2-3-1, which drops back into a 4-5-1, and they know their job. They know exactly what they've got to do in that team, and they played it well.
Yeah, there's not many teams come back for 2-0 down at Parkhead. I said last week I thought I fancied Celtic to run over the top of Aberdeen. I thought 3-0 was my prediction, and at 2-0 I was sitting very, very smugly thinking I'm bang on. And then second half, I think Celtic had a mad 10-15 minute spell where Aberdeen came flying out the traps. He made two subs. You've got to give him credit. He made 2 subs at half time. He took Clarkson and Nisbet off, and he brought Sockler on, and he gets a goal. Great goal. Great ball through for McGrath and a wonderful finish, and then a back in the game. Wee bit of luck with the second goal, but they rocked Celtic in that little spell, and then you thought they went 3-2 ahead. And you're thinking, wow, Aberdeen are going to win the league. And then obviously the fans were getting really excited. But I think you've got to give them enormous credit, for coming from 2-0 down. Proved a lot of people wrong. Proved a lot of people wrong in here, myself included. And that's going to give them enormous confidence to come back for 2-0 down against Celtic at Parkhead, stay unbeaten, and then Rangers losing yesterday. A wonderful weekend for an Aberdeen fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the stand was Sir Alex Ferguson, Ruffy, watching on, and I'll tell you, it was just like a leaf out of his Aberdeen side, because if they were behind at half time, he used to let them know.
Yeah, as Tam said, the manager deserves a lot of credit. He's identified where it wasn't happening for Aberdeen, and the changes he made changed the game for them. And I've said before, if you're prepared to have a go at this Celtic defence without Cameron Vickers, they are so fragile, it's unreal. I don't think the back four understand what they're all doing, and if you are prepared to play that way, you'll get goals, because we've seen it before, that without Cameron Vickers, there's just no leader at the back there. But in saying that, I think the last 10 minutes, the 10 minutes into extra time was absolutely brilliant. The chances that were coming late, it was just like the Alamo, everybody in the box. And first half Celtic, yeah. Second half, you have to give Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen were the only team to come out at the end of it with credit, because nobody expected, as Tam said, to come back for 2-0. So to get out of there 2 each, and the way the players defended was brilliant at the end.
Well, this is what Brendan Rodgers had to say about the overall performance. We had a good control in the first half. Should have been more in front, and then probably around about that 50th minute to the 60th minute, a little bit passive without the ball, lacked aggression. They obviously make the changes, and obviously the guy coming on runs in behind, and that's his strength to get the goal, and you have to give them big credit for that. And Jimmy and his team, they're well coached, well organised, and the changes worked for them well. I don't know if you can remember me saying this, Ruffy, but I did mention that the boy, Nielsen, I mean, he's just calmness personified. Everything goes through him, and he organises the back and gets them back, and then moving forward. And this is the difference when you talk about midfielders who are good midfielders. Before McGrath makes that brilliant pass, the ball before that, Nielsen takes the pass. Before it comes to him, Ruffy, he's already looked up and he can see McGrath. And what he does with one touch of the ball is he plays it forward, takes out 2 Celtic players, and that allows McGrath suddenly, if he's got the ability, which the boy has, he was outstanding. He plays the ball right through the heart of Celtic's weakest area, which is the centre of their defence, and they get the goal to give them a sniff back into the game. I just thought it was that killer pass. It was that bravery on the ball that we look at week in, week out. You know, players who are brave, who want to play it forward, who want to make that killer pass. You get your just rewards.
Well, it's obviously they've worked on it throughout the week. You know, they've saw, the Celtic back four push up very high. And if you've got somebody like McGrath who can feed that ball through, it's there. If he's got the ability to do it, which he did. I just thought that they'd done their homework. I don't remember anybody saying anything about Maeda or Kuhn in the game. I don't remember any of the two doing anything of any significance. So they've worked on that as well. They've stopped the ball coming into Kyogo, apart from the goals. But for the whole 90 minutes, they nullified Celtic's best players. And at the end of the day, they were fortunate on some occasions, but at the end of the day, you've got to give them credit.
Yeah, Jimmy Tulin after the game, I think every manager loves a wee bit of luck. This is what he had to say on their overall performance. The Aberdeen manager, have I got it? I'll come back to that in just a minute, what he had to say. But it's on the basis of every manager needs a little bit of luck. They got that along. I'll read out what he had to say first of all. I like the team spirit the players have, how they help each other. It's not easy to come here and have 2-0 against you and go out in the second half when Celtic have such quality. Then, of course, sometimes you need to have some luck. In the last 3, 4, 5 minutes, there were some crazy moments on the pitch, but the players sacrificed themselves. They gave everything they had, and they did do that. The only thing I was going to say to you, I thought the Aberdeen goal should have stood, the third one. I don't think Duke consciously moved his hand towards that ball. I think it's battered off him and it's gone into the net. I mean, I would stand to be corrected by a match official who turns around and says, well, it gains them the ultimate advantage because it plays his hand. I didn't see any angle that suggested to me he knew anything about it or consciously had his arms out. So that was the first thing. The second thing is I thought Celtic should have had a penalty in the last 2 seconds because I thought Duke did handle it. But
I disagree with both of them.
So
well, that's a great thing about
disagree.
it.
I thought he did use his hand for the goal. I thought the third goal should have been off. The instant on the line with Duke, I am completely unconvinced either way. I've not seen one angle that gives you any clarity on what happened. I think you're just looking at how his body moves.
I thought it came off his thigh and then maybe onto his hand.
I thought it was really
what does that
difficult
mean
to
then?
see it.
That means it's not a penalty.
Yeah.
If it comes off his thigh first and then hits his hand, it's not a penalty.
God, I looked at it from one angle, Ruffy, and I thought,
So
that's a penalty.
I thought, as I said, I think unfortunately the cameras all seem to be
I don't
behind.
think
There
I've
was
seen
nothing,
one clear.
There was nothing camera coming this way, which must have. It was just the speed of the ball came back out, and I could hit him in the chest. I couldn't have seen it coming out. It looked as if it was like that, but again, I've watched it hundreds of times as well, and I'm not.
Me too.
I'd love to have seen VAR's
Take
angles
a
on
look
it.
yes.
I don't think we've seen them.
What we were told
definitive.
is that there was a very quick check in the game and then he blew his whistle. That was what.
I thought maybe it hit his hand, but it wasn't a deliberate hand. was nothing he could do about it.
What, for
I
the
just think
penalty?
it's
For the
impossible.
penalty, it came at him so quick. His hand wasn't in an unnatural position. It was down there, and there was nothing he could have done about it. That's why I think it hit his hand, and
Yeah.
they just said,
Well, here's one here. It says Duke's goal was a goal. And that's from a James Tillene. So, I mean, everybody's got their say on it. I think, you know, as a footnote to this, Aberdeen, nothing but credit from it, because if that doesn't give you the confidence, Ali, the manager, and my footnote to this is this, the manager realised that he was up against a side that can outspend them and outplay them. And he went 4-5-1 when they didn't have the ball, and he banked them close to each other. And then he waited to pick his moment.
A bit of intelligence in the movement too. Some of the passing was clever. The passing for that first goal, a bit of fortune with the second goal. But on another day, you look at that performance, you think on another day, see that last 10, 15 minutes, Celtic would score a few goals just the way, I think it was at 16% possession or something like that Aberdeen had. But I think they will take massive belief, not just from the point that they got against Celtic and at Celtic Park, but from the manner in which they did it. To be 2-0 down at 2-0, and you know there's a weight of history with Celtic and Aberdeen at Celtic Park. They've been on the end of some real hidings at points, and you maybe think at half time, is there a collapse coming? Celtic get the next goal, is this going to be another kind of cricket score? And the I told you so, you know, Aberdeen's title race lasted till October, blah blah blah. I think they deserve huge credit. I think they'll draw immense psychological belief from that result and coming back. But I have to say, I thought it was good fun to watch. I thought it was really entertaining in terms of it being end to end and a fantastic spectacle and a great advert for Scottish football. I thought it was a thoroughly entertaining game.
I think it's refreshing as well, Peter, that you see a team going there and
have a go.
having a go, and yeah, you want competition.
He sensibly had a go. He didn't just go
He didn't
gung-ho.
gung ho. He was on the counter attack. They were well organised, but you want to see that, Peter. You want to, even a Celtic fan, you want to go and turn up and win 4 and 5-0 every week. You want to go and see a team tested. That's what I would want anyway.
I saw a video of a Celtic fan going absolutely tonto yesterday, right, at the overall Aberdeen 2-2. And I go back to what Ruffy and I used to say. I mean, honestly, the reason why we love football, we love Scottish football, and we make our living out of it. But I was brought up in a time when you weren't sure who was going to win the league. It was bloody great. You could get on a supporters bus and think to yourself, Dundee United could hammer us today. Aberdeen could beat us. Do you know what I mean? It was that way that you wanted to go and support your team but not know the outcome. That's what I think a league should be. I don't know what's going to happen here. Not, I am an entitled fan and we must win by 5 or 6 goals. And I'm talking about it from a Rangers position when they were 9 in a row to a Celtic position, you know, when they were dominating, and they are dominating again. I like it when teams like Aberdeen did it, Falkirk did it, great to watch. Do it in a measured fashion. I thought was...
That's exactly it.
You know, and that's the big question now, because, Ruffy, next up for Celtic, Atalanta. I can't wait to see, and she's smiling because she knows it's coming. I can't wait to see how he's going to line up and play against Atalanta, because if he goes toe-to-toe with Gasparini's side, he's going to get battered. And he'll not going to only get battered with his team on the park, but I think a lot of people will shift their thought process on Brendan Rodgers unless he implements Plan B.
yeah, well, if it did go pear-shaped, I mean, horribly pear-shaped, he's going to have to come out with a better reasoning than what he did the last time. There's only so many times you can come out and give that kind of excuse. So I know he looks a wee, I don't know if stubborn is the right word, but he doesn't like other people to tell him what to do. If he comes out and plays that back four that played at the weekend there, then they're going to lose goals, you know, because I don't think they have the ability for the midfield to help the back four in that kind of game. And, you know, I can't even imagine Celtic coming out of there with nothing each, you know. So I think this team are on form. They've got quality players in the team. So I don't know how you can change it, Peter. I don't know what he can do. He doesn't have, for me, he doesn't have a sitting two in front of the back four, you know, that can dig in and make tackles and kill the game and break it up like the players that he used to have. You know, off the top of my head, who used to play in there in the European games and he's away now.
Like a Victor Wanyama type.
Them like that, no players like that, you know, who would sit in and don't let them get to the back four. You know, don't let them get in there, but he doesn't have that kind of player. He's bought players who want to entertain and go forward and score goals, and that's great. But when you come up against better teams, you've got to have other players to come in.
I wonder if you might be tempted to start with Adam Ida up front, just to give you an out, someone to hold the ball up a bit. It's just not Kyogo's game at all. I think obviously you know what Kyogo offers. I just wonder if you might change it in that sense.
I wouldn't even begin to tell a good manager like Brendan Rodgers who to play. I would just say great managers can change, can come up with a plan B. You're going in against a side that have won the Europa League. They beat a Bayer Leverkusen side on one of the longest unbeaten runs in German football, and they went toe-to-toe in the Europa League final and defeated them. I think Brendan Rodgers, is he a good manager in this league without anybody able to compete with him with lots of money? Well, is he a good manager against European opposition that can outspend him? As Martin O'Neill used to say on countless occasions, Gordon Strachan and Neil Lennon, when you're coming up against an opponent who's better than you, you've got to work out a way to punch above your weight.
Yeah, I think he's got to try something different. I don't necessarily think he will. I think that Brendan's Brendan. I think he'll back himself, he'll back his team. He'll have confidence in his team to do the bits that they didn't do well against Dortmund better. I think he'll play a similar system. I think the big one for me is Carter Vickers. I think they've got to have him back. You know, the big boy trustee's been unconvincing so far when you look at the money that Celtic have spent. I think he's
a Sheffield United.
Yeah, he's been unconvincing. Still paid $6 million for him, Peter, so you'd be expecting more domestically, you know, in a couple of games that I've seen him. I don't think he's looked great. I think they need Cameron Carter-Vickers back badly, because when you go into that environment away in the Champions League, you're going to be under the cosh for large periods of the game, and you've got to defend strongly, you've got to defend your box strongly. And I think if they go in with Scales and Trusty, I think a lot of Celtic fans would be maybe watching it from behind the couch. So I think that Brendan will not change too much, but he'll try and be a little bit more solid off the ball. I still think he'll play the same system.
How can he change? What formation can he change into with the players that he's got? What can he do?
What do you mean?
Well, he's got two full backs and he's got two centre halves. He's got three in the midfield, two wide guys, and one up front. What's he going to change to make himself
the way they play? The way they play, he has to change the script, which is basically you can't keep saying keep passing out from the back, then keep tippy-tappy, tick-a-taka through the middle against better players. What you do is every now and then you say to yourself, we've got to bank it 4-5-1, make sure that when we get out, we hit them on the counter-attack, because his side has lots of pace. So let's play counter-attacking football. But when they've got the ball, everybody drop behind and make them difficult to try and get in behind. That's the script.
The playing out from the back in Dortmund was responsible for, directly off the top of my head, 3 goals.
Yeah.
When you think of the mess that Celtic were getting themselves into because of the press of Dortmund, really good players coming at you, and Celtic not able to cope with it, and then conceding possession, conceding really quick goals. I think sometimes you have to adapt, you have to accept you're up against it, you're playing against better players, and just work out a way. What's the best way to go and try and engineer a result? I don't think Celtic can afford a 4, a 5, a 6-0. They can't afford to be on the end of a real hiding again.
Let's have a look at the news.
Hello, I'm Cara, and here are your daily news headlines on Monday 21st of October, sponsored by Arnold Clark. Leon Balogun says that he understands fan criticism after Rangers were beaten 1-0 by Kilmarnock.
Not giving you a lot of time, so you have to adapt fast and know what's coming. It's not always easy to handle, I know that, and I understand, but that's just what this place is like, and you have to live up to their expectation. And then, like I said, I think the supporters are entitled to their frustration.
After his first win as Hearts manager, Neil Critchley says he's not scared to make changes ahead of Hearts' busy European schedule.
It won't be that players who are left out of the team are just cast aside. We'll make sure that they get the right training tomorrow, the right care individually for when they get an opportunity to play, which could happen. I'm not afraid to change just because we've won the game. I think it's right to change on Thursday night.
Mikel Arteta hopes his Arsenal side can bounce back to form after defeat to Bournemouth on Saturday night, where he saw his team go down to 10 men for the third time this season. They play Shakhtar Donetsk in the Champions League tomorrow night.
Yeah, we have to start tomorrow, obviously. The desire is there. We want to desperately play these kind of matches, and we know, and the atmosphere is going to be terrific tomorrow night. So let's produce that and earn the right to win the game.
And finally, it's been reported that Atalanta could be without 6 key first-team players as they face Celtic in the Champions League on Wednesday night. Those were your daily news headlines on Monday, 21st of October, sponsored by Arnold Clark. For more content, please be sure to download the app and subscribe to our YouTube channels.
Yeah, quite a few Celtic fans hoping those 6 players actually don't take to the field in midfield and up front. Sean,
allowed to replace them.
Yeah,
Only play with 5.
Sean, who's a Rangers fan, says Rangers are a new team. I think everyone needs to cut them some slack. And Tony says Celtic, they have to drop back farther than the game against Dortmund. The gap between defence and midfield is huge. And James says, Peter, our defence is simply not good enough for Europe. So many people, thank you for your views on this, because obviously there are semi-finals coming up as well. And Atalanta, says Kaiser, would be a top 4 side in the English league. Well, we're about to find out. And I think this one from one of our other viewers says, Atalanta missing a few starters, that means it might just be 4-0 then. So everybody's got their own point of view on the Europe, and domestically, Dundee United 3, Hibs 2. Your boys are unbelievable. Joe Newell, 2 mad tackles out of the derby, and it just goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, you're talking about Rangers in the circle. I think that Hibs is the same. It's like Groundhog Day. I feel as if I've just been saying the same stuff for 2 years since they sacked Jack Ross. They get a new manager in, they start poorly, the manager's under pressure, they sack the manager, they get a new manager in, they start poorly, they get a new manager in. It's just, honestly, it's just a real dark time to be a Hibs supporter. I think that there's never been such a bigger disconnect between the fans and the team and the board and the club. You know, you look at it, if you just break it down, all the managers can't be bad managers. So you start to look, well, what's the problem at Hibs? And for me, it's the people that are running the club. And they've got to take a real hard look at themselves. I think a lot of Hibs supporters are starting to point the finger at Ian Gordon and Ben Kenso and the board at Hibs. And I think that's rightly so, because, as I said to you, not all these managers are duds. You know, some of them are going down in England and done well. Nick Montgomery's in at Tottenham, Sean Maloney's in there at Wigan. You know, so it's just one thing after another. Joe Newell, experienced player, crazy, let the team down, let the manager down. You know, I'm a big supporter of Joe. I think he's a very, very good player, but he's let a lot of people down with that second tackle. You're on a booking, he's an experienced guy. You can't do that. The week before it was Triantis. You cut him a little bit more slack, he's a younger player, but they're killing the manager, they're killing David Gray. Individual errors, the goalkeeper, hopeless at the third goal. You know, poor at the second goal. Individual errors are costing them every week. They're not playing particularly badly, but if they keep making individual errors, this manager's going to get the sack as well. And they've got a huge game coming up at the weekend against Hearts. They're sitting bottom of the league, Hearts are second bottom. Never thought I'd ever see that, to be honest. 2 massive clubs sitting in the bottom 2. And David's now sadly under a bit of pressure with the Hibs supporters. A lot of them didn't think he was qualified for the job, he's inexperienced. He's obviously been there with different managers and it's not worked out. A lot of guys, you know, wanted him because he's a club legend, but Frank Sosey was a club legend and he lasted 13 games. I know that because I was there, and they sacked him. So it doesn't matter if you're a club legend or you scored the win in the Scottish Cup final. If you're not getting results, then you're going to be out the door. But they've got a huge game coming up at the weekend, Peter. I'm not going to put he has to win the game. It's at Easter Road. They can't lose the game. I think if they lose the game, then David's going to be under real pressure. even this early, Peter, 9 games into the season. It's incredible to even think that, but Hibs simply cannot be bottom of the league. They can't be.
Oh, we don't need to buy the record on Thursday now.
Yeah, oh, that's the column. That is the column. Although remember, by the way, Tam is the equivalent of the weather cockerel. He swings wherever the wind blows. It'll change at any moment.
And it's the what, Peter? Do you know what? It's the worst opposition you could play in the weekend, and all, because the Hibs fans would be dreading getting to play that game against Hearts. The record Hibs have got against Hearts over the last period. Hearts coming into town is just.
I've got to take issue
with it's a sad time for you to be a Hibs fan, let's be honest. It's just it's not a great time.
Since Neil Lennon, Eddie May's come in, caretaker. Paul Heckingbottom, I just...
went down to England and done well, another one.
I thought he was uninspiring, to be honest with you. Eddie May comes back in. Jack Ross sacked him before a semi-final. And then David Gray, caretaker. Sean Maloney, who said to me he felt as if he was going to get sacked after 4 weeks. David Gray comes back in. Then Lee Johnson, who for me was just comedy gold in an after-match press conference, especially when he said he needed 5 transfer windows. And I thought, that'll be good. David Gray, then Nick Montgomery, and then David Gray back in. I look at it and I'm saying to myself, is Malky Mackay in the background offering him some advice on this? Should he be offering him some advice? Should he have someone of a more experienced voice as a partnership in this, Ruffy? Because he looks like a rabbit in the headlights at the moment.
No, that for me at this moment in time, it's Malky's job to be there. You know, to just chap the door and come in, have a chat. You know, Malky's been in the game a long time at a lot of good clubs. You know, so he must have some input in what's happening. I wouldn't like to see him just leaving him to deal with it himself. But Tam's right, you know, this is a massive game at the weekend. If you're a Hibs player or a Hearts player in the game, it's a game you don't want to lose. And at this particular time, unfortunately for Hibs, Hearts have in that 4 at the weekend, they'll be cock-a-hoop going into that game. And you're right, the Hibs supporters will be dreading it. And if you're a Hibs player, you don't want to be in the end of a derby. Particularly if you're in the end of 15 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's Ruffy. There's Ruffy actually just telling me exactly what the problem is here. Of course, Hearts 4-0 winners over St Mirren, and the perfect start for the Hearts boss. And we'll come back to Neil Critchley in a minute. But 4-0 for them is a dream start.
It's a dream start, and even the first goal, you know, if he's going to take any credit for that, it's what he's been working on leading up to that game. It was a fantastic first goal they got, and after that, obviously later on we'll probably see the St Mirren manager, but some of the goals they lost after that were just diabolical. It was just diabolical decision making for every player in that St Mirren team, and I'm sure we'll hear from their manager that he's a wee bit annoyed.
Yeah, here's Neil Critchley.
Yeah, when you go to bed last night, go to sleep, you dream of with a start like this, scoring a few goals and keeping a clean sheet. So I'm delighted for the players. They've been fantastic this week. So receptive to the work that we've done. I think there were signs of that on the pitch, and to keep a clean sheet, I think that's really important as well.
No.
It's incredible, that team transformation, isn't it? 4-0.
It's absolutely extraordinary. But
they didn't look like a team that could have 4 passes, never mind 4-0.
4 goals in them. Yeah, it just you would expect them to go and kick on a bit, although you do wonder sometimes when you change a manager and you get a result like that, and you think Stephen Naismith must be watching and telling me say that.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Robinson himself has actually mentioned that he felt as if the St Mirren players played a major part in the Hearts win.
Hearts didn't need a manager bounce. They didn't need to play particularly well to beat us. We beat ourselves. We had the first goal. We are in control of the ball. We lose it. We don't react to that. The second goal is a great finish. You have to hold your hands up. The third goal, I think we ran into each other, and we give the ball away for the fourth goal. So Hearts didn't have to beat us. We beat ourselves. So it's very much back to basics. You know, ultimately I'm to blame for it. I put the team out. Some of the decision making today is simply not acceptable. You know, we've we've made decisions and senior players making decisions that aren't good enough, and we have to have a response to that. Otherwise, it'll be a long season.
3 defeats in a row.
Yeah, I think he made a good point too when he was saying that he felt as though a lot of the players were thinking that they were maybe a European team, just given recent seasons. I think they had a difficult start too when you're balancing the demands of European football, a bit like Kilmarnock, and then trying to cope with domestic games. But where Kilmarnock have started to piece together a sequence of results, St Mirren just haven't quite managed to do it yet. I think he'll want to get them back to basics, almost just back to playing, making themselves really difficult to beat. And you didn't see St Mirren on the wrong end of scorelines like that too often across recent seasons. It's a bit of an aberration.
Yeah. Motherwell 0, Dundee 1. Lyle Cameron with a goal. Stuart Kettlewell, I think, actually could see this one coming.
Greatest fear coming off a good run, and you get asked the question all week that we come out and we don't reach the levels that we have done. There's been a couple of games we've had to hang in there at times in stages of games, but you know, the last period of the game, last 30 minutes or so of the game, you could argue, yeah, it was tight and all the rest of it, but I expect better from what the players have shown us to this point. We kind of throw caution to the wind. We've got a lot of attacking players on. We put a little bit of pressure on, and Dundee maybe drop off us a little bit, but I didn't feel we created enough to merit me sitting here saying staking a claim for winning the game or taking anything out of the game.
Yeah, the other match, it was St Johnstone 3, Ross County 0. I never predicted that, did you?
No, we didn't. I don't think anybody predicted Dundee winning either. I think that's great for Tony Docherty to get that, you know, monkey off his back. I think there were 15, 16 games without a win, so fantastic result for Dundee. St Johnstone, now nobody's seen that. I think the new manager's in the stand. Obviously, he's having an effect already. Kim Pioka is a good striker. We've seen that so far. And young Mackenzie Kirk coming on. I played with his dad, Andy, who's in the dugout as well. So that's great for the Kirks that he came on and scored a goal. It's a promising young striker as well. So, yeah, I think from St Johnstone looking as if they've not got many goals in them. You know, that's a big result for them, because Ross County, I think, will be round about them at the bottom of the table at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I was going to say to you is, I don't know if you're aware of this, Ruffy. Kenny, the Aberdeen fan from LA, is coming. He's coming into Scotland, and with a bit of luck, he might be here on Friday in the studio as one of our guests.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. And
you know,
obviously he'll be cock a hoop after what's happened at the weekend. So it'd be great to see him. It's always nice to put a face to a call.
Yeah, absolutely. We're giving fans a chance to come in and batter us, Ali. It doesn't get any better than that, does it? Kenny's a respectable...
There's a queue of Aberdeen fans.
Kenny's a respectable Aberdeen fan, so you won't get the same treatment I usually get. Always good to get a fan in, to get a perspective on it, and none better than an Aberdeen fan in this week of all weeks.
Yeah, brilliant. I think the Aberdeen fans are on high spirits at the minute. You know, they've had a tough couple of seasons. We went through a few managers, but I just think they've landed on a good manager. I think Dave Cormack was due one, to be honest, with his record of appointing them, but I think that they have got a real steel about them, a real structure about them, and you know, it was a fantastic weekend for Aberdeen, going down to Celtic 2-0 down, getting a point, Rangers losing, you know, increasing the gap over Rangers, and yeah, it'd be great to see the fans. I met a couple at the weekend as well who are big fans of the show and love the show as well. So it's good to bump into people that actually watch the show.
Yeah, brilliant. And also Kenny's just said to us there that when he's coming in on Friday, Ruff, he's got you a gift. So just don't do any tennis or anything.
No. Hopefully it's an opinion.
Well, no, hopefully he's got enough air to get use out of it. But nevertheless, Kenny's got a gift.
Yeah, I better get him something myself. Find out what chocolate he likes.
What do you get an Aberdeen fan who's got everything, Ali? At the moment, the whole thing is, you know, I mean, they're just absolutely flying. Go to Celtic Park, none of us predicted it, get themselves a draw, and head back up the road thinking, although some Aberdeen fans have said this to me before we finish this show, second, a lot of games to play. Aberdeen fans on here have been saying, we should be thinking we could finish first.
It's kind of thinking they should have. Whether or not it's going to happen or not, it's a different matter, but certainly that's how they should be thinking. But you could maybe get a couple of bowls for Kenny, just for all the humble pie that the Aberdeen fans are going to be giving you to eat over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. I'm just hoping that Kenny doesn't come in with any livestock which could threaten the programme. Anyway, apart from that, I'll leave you with that thought. Looking forward to having Kenny in as well. There's lots to come. The Women's Football Show will have Wednesday as well with the football show, and let's not forget the journos this week as well. We've got European football to look forward to, and we'll be talking about that throughout the week. So give us your thoughts on how you think the Scottish clubs are going to do. Steaua Bucharest, Omonia Nicosia, and of course Celtic in Italy against Atalanta. All to look forward to. Lots of interviews with managers and players. Hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. We'd love you to join the football family. From Ruffy, Allison, Tam McManus and myself, Peter Martin, thank you for listening and watching.